Joining me now is Delaware Governor John Carney, who was on that call with the president. Delaware has reported 143 cases of coronavirus and, unfortunately, 2 deaths. Governor, it's good to have you with us this morning. Thank you very much for your time. Let's start with what your state needs. Tell us about the needs that were raised on that call and how the president responded to the calls by other governors as well as you.
So first of all, it's a sad day in Delaware as we lost 2 Delawareans yesterday. And my worst fear was realized as we saw an outbreak in a nursing facility with a number of other folks who have tested positive. And this is a facility that's run by an order of Catholic nuns who sadly have been serving the elderly poor for generations. And so it's just our hearts are sad today, and our thoughts and prayers go to the family and friends of those folks. On the phone call yesterday, governors from across the country talked about the needs that they had for protective gear, for testing kits, for hospital equipment to manage and to respond to the surge that we're seeing that you reported on just now that's happening in the city of New York and the state of New York. And what we heard was that resources were being redirected to states that need it the most. And so a state like Delaware, where we have a very serious situation, but not one like the state of New York, some of our requests for that equipment has been redirected to other states. So a lot of concern among my colleagues on the call about not receiving the equipment they need to really respond at the hospital level to the surge that we see coming.
So speaking of New York, and you brought up a point that I wanted to get to, which is New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo has been warning that the rest of the country will see what is happening in New York through different phases, because the trajectories, the charts are all different levels or different stages. How bad are the projections for your state? I mean, how are you preparing if you were to heed that advice from the governor of New York that almost every region is going to see similar cases, but at different times?
Yeah, so Governor Cuomo is exactly right. And I see those projections, and they're scary projections depending on what your assumptions are in terms of transmission rates, in terms of hospitalizations. We're trying to push the hospitalization rates down by really protecting our senior citizens. And that's why the outbreak in the nursing home is very, very concerning. So we're redoubling our efforts to do 2 things. One, protect seniors, to try to isolate those seniors so they don't the virus doesn't spread to individuals and to other groups. And more importantly, to get the message out to everybody else to stay at home, to shelter in place, don't go out in public where you might be exposed to the virus, and then increasing those number of cases. We need to really flatten that curve, as all the experts say, and at the same time, be ready for that hospital surge that we know is coming.
And finally, sir, what do you make of the president's, reported desire to categorize different counties across the U.S. or different regions in the U.S. as high, medium, low risk, and try to get some parts of those counties or businesses up and running? Do you think that is a smart approach as you try to contain the spread of that in your state?
So the message that we ought to be trying to get people to go back to work is just the wrong message right now. The message that we should be getting out there is that people need to stay at home and shelter in place and try to prevent the spread of the virus in our communities. That's the message. And by the way, it's a difficult message. Not everybody is picking it up. As I travel across our state, I see too many people out in groups and not observing social distancing. That's the message that we really should be hammering home with the people that we serve every day.
Let me bring one point to your attention really quickly. It's a grim number. You closed non-essential businesses like many governors through the U.S. Now Delaware is reporting more unemployment cases in the last week than it had in 1 month during the last 30 years. That is a very grim picture that millions of Americans are obviously going to be feeling that impact. What are the most urgent needs that folks in your state need this morning from this relief bill that's working its way through Congress?
So first of all, hats off to the Democrats and Republicans that came together to pass that piece of legislation. I think the most important thing are 2 things. One, support for the unemployed. As you mentioned, we've got a tremendous surge here in our state with people who've been who are out of work now, and so they'll get additional support. We loosened up some of our rules to provide some support, and the feds will really help out there. And then secondly, small businesses. I hear the anguish in the voice of the small business owners that are here in Delaware. Now with this support from the federal legislation, that'll be a big deal for those small business owners.
Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? It's really easy. Just click on that button down there. And for more news from MSNBC, click on any of these videos here for the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more videos from MSNBC with our newsletters. Head over to msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up.